How about that for a massive haul? Welcome back to the channel. I'm not using my normal camera because I can't fit everything in using its wide angle. How about that for a massive haul? Oh my goodness, it's made me quite sweaty bringing that up the stairs, but I'm very, very excited to see what we have here. There are two highlights in the middle there. They're Tandon PCs 286 with what are called Pac hard disks. I'll come to those in a minute. There's also a Compaq 386 there, absolutely brilliant. Two Dells, one of which is a 486, lovely. I've got a cheap Dell on this end, and look at all these data packs. I didn't know there were that many surviving data packs in the UK, let alone all being in one room at the same time. Two external data pack drives, and let's not forget the monitors. My goodness. So I had to go to London and collect all this, but I'm glad I did. Let's have a look at these data packs. These data packs are 30 megabyte removable hard disks that were made by Tandon for a brief period at the end of the 80s. And they were quite revolutionary, but no one else either was licensed to use them or was allowed to use them. I'm not sure what the situation was, but these are about the size of 2/3 of a brick, and they store 30 megabytes, and they go in the slots in the front of the machine like this one. Not only are these exciting in their own right, but some of them have got some exciting titles. Artemis, so Project Artemis, that sounds exciting, from 1993. There's another one here from 1994. Another one here, but it gets better. How about the Channel Tunnel Project? Ooh. British gas procedures. Nice. Spare one, okay. Another spare one. But how about this? North Pole backup. My goodness, where has this machine been? Some unmarked ones there. Could be interesting. I really want to know what's on here. I think there's about a 5% chance of any of these working. So, we'll see. This one appears to be jammed out. I don't know what the mechanism for taking these in and out is. So, we'll have to work on that. Right. Back to the normal camera. So how did all this start? Well, so like many collectors, I have several saved searches on eBay that pop up notifications when certain keywords are triggered, and it just so happened that this popped up in my email, and I looked at it, and the photo was just like, I cannot believe that that's being sold. And it was the two Tandons, the Compaq, and the whole load of data packs. And so that got me interesting straight away. And so I clicked on the seller's other items link, and she had a whole range of retro computer stuff for sale that was from her father's estate. She had put very reasonable start prices on all of this stuff, but she also had some make me an offer buttons. So I made an offer on everything, basically. And I don't live in London, and it was for sale in London, so it didn't kind of make sense for me to just go and get a monitor. So I had to put offers in on everything. So that's what I did. She graciously accepted all of them, and I went to go and pick them up a couple of weeks ago. And as you can see, it's a massive, great haul, and there are certain things in there in particular that are really exciting. The Tandons and the data packs are really, really exciting. When I was growing up in the 80s, I saw adverts for these things, and they looked really futuristic at the time. And the PCs look so different from anything else that was on the market because they've got those two massive holes in the front of them. The concept of removable storage obviously isn't new. It's been around as long as computers have been around, essentially. We think it was kind of, invented with a zip drive maybe, but way before that, the Tandon Corporation was making removable hard drives. Never really caught on. There were some problems with reliability, apparently. Also, access speed weren't particularly quick. There were 86, I think it was closer to 85 millisecond access speeds, where most hard drives were, less than half of that. So they weren't particularly quick, but they had massive, massive amount of flexibility. I'm really surprised they never caught on. So they've been resigned to history. Tandon did make Data Pac 2, which was a SCSI-based device a few years later, and again, that didn't catch on either. It was faster and it had a bigger capacity, but it's just the whole format just never really caught on for some reason. Anyway, I saw this listing, and I was just really excited to get it. I went and picked it up a few weeks ago, and brought it all back, and you know, very, very excited. I've got no idea where I'm going to store all this stuff because there's so much of it. But first of all, problem, I had to decide which computer to start recording first, and then that's when I hit my first major setback, unfortunately. I turned one of the Tandons round to find massive amounts of corrosion, and if you are interested in collecting computers, you'll know straight away that means there's probably a battery issue. And indeed, when I started taking the computer apart, and they come apart in a really interesting way, actually. They're so totally different in construction method from any other kind of PC that was on the market at the time. I'm surprised they made any money on them because they are very well engineered. But they come apart in a really interesting way, and every time I took something off, it was corroded, and it just got worse and worse. And when I actually saw the motherboard, you know, it was horrendous, and it was so bad. In fact, I didn't even recognise the battery format. So the battery was in a holder, and it literally fell off as I looked at it. It must have been very much on its last legs. I didn't even recognise what format the battery was. It was so distended and corroded, and so the first Tandon is going to be probably a write-off. I certainly don't have the skills to repair the amount of damage that's in here. I'm going to have a go, but if the motherboard traces are damaged, it's going to be probably not in my skill set to fix that, and I'll have to find somebody else who can. I haven't actually looked at the second machine yet. It doesn't have signs of corrosion on, but I do need to take that apart very rapidly now and try and work out whether any of the internals of that are savable. So we're not going to get to see a lot of the Tandons in this video, unfortunately. We'll move on. I have been showing some B-roll footage, hopefully, of the Tandons that you've been looking at, and you know, we will do a separate video on those specifically at some point in the future. So let's move on. Let's look at the next computer. I'm going to just randomly pick just one of the Dells. So this is the first pair that I've picked out of the pile, but actually the reason I picked these two out is because this is the most recent Dell. It's a Pentium 3 era, 667 megahertz, probably from around the year 2000. But the monitor manufacture date is 1995, so this is actually a much earlier monitor. And I picked these two out because this is a pretty much budget computer in Dell's line, and this is a 15-inch, no frills budget monitor. So I assumed these two went together, but in fact, I think it turns out to not. So what does this monitor go with then? Let's have a look in the pile. So the answer is probably this one, which is a Dell Dimension XPS D266. So this is a Pentium 2 based machine. It's designed for Windows 95. It probably came out after 1995. It probably came out around 1997, which is, I think, when the very first Pentium 2s came out. So there's still a slight mismatch in the date, and it may be that these were never actually used together. But they did come from the same sale in the same house. This has got this very useful sticker saying working. This one does not, which is a little bit concerning. There's also this missing front blanking plate here for a device. I'm guessing this is a tape drive, judging by the size of this drive wheel here and the fact that it's in a 3.5-inch bay. So let's have a little look a bit closer at both of these things and then try and turn them on. So the monitor appears to be a fairly basic Dell model. It's got a Dell logo on the front and an on-off switch, but no visible controls on the front. And underneath here you've got some analog controls for displaying the image, so no digital control on this device. That makes me think it's a budget machine. Let's have a look at the rest of it. On the top it is yellowed and grubby, and it has got some ID stickers on it, PC248 and Neil Joy, and I think Neil Joy is a name that appears on some of the other devices that we had in this pile. Looking at the back of the machine, we have a captive VGA cable. That's another sign that it's a budget machine. Got the AC in, and we've got a model number, which is V1528E, and a manufacturing date of January 1995. So in terms of model number, V probably stands for value, 15 probably stands for 15-inch, and 28 is the dot pitch. E, not sure what that means, probably energy efficient or energy efficiency applied for example. So a fairly basic monitor, but it is supposed to be working, so that's good. Let's have a look at the main event. So it's a Dell Dimension XPS D266. That's the basic, as in lowest speed Pentium 2 that came out. It's got a Pentium 2 sticker here on the front and a Windows 95 sticker on. So this was designed for Windows 95. The fact that it's got a tape backup device in it makes me think it was either used as a small server or as a workstation for some important data. It's got a standard floppy drive, it's got a compact disc CD-ROM, normal front Dell appearance around this time. They varied this front panel from either having these horizontal fins to a kind of L-shaped fin on the front, but basically the case didn't change very much between the Pentium 2s and the Pentium 3s. Nothing very interesting on the side. It has got a fairly wide foot. In this case, it's very grubby. Other side is the same. What's missing is any operating system certificate of authenticity, so no Windows 95 sticker. Around the back we have the usual stuff. We have thumb screw for getting the side of the case off. Got power supply, fan, CPU fan, PS2 and USB. We've got a single serial. We've got a parallel printer port, and unusually we've got a game port and sound. So although this is kind of like a business orientated PC, it has actually got a game port and sound built in. Some Dells don't have that. There's a separate VGA card here, a separate Ethernet, and we've got a modem as well. There's a support code here. I'm guessing if I type that in it won't be recognised, but we can always try that. There's not a lot of dust in the fans, so that's nice. These do have proprietary CPUs, so if it's not working, and remember there's no working sticker on the front, then we're not going to get very far with this. I think you can get ATX to Dell converters. I'll have to look into that, but let's open up first before we try and turn it on. So that's just a case of undoing this thumb screw and pushing on these two tabs, pushing one up, one down, and then pulling. And these are always really, really stiff. Finally managed to loosen it. So let's take it off. It's a bit grubby, but it's not too badly scratched or anything. Sometimes when these go into storage, they get horribly scratched. And there we are. So we can see the whole of the inside. As a proprietary power supply, it's a slot 1 system, so it's got a tall Pentium sitting in that slot. It's a Pentium 2 in this case, should be 266 megahertz if the case badge is correct. Got a video card, network card, modem card, and the modem is ISA, and the other two are, well, the network card is PCI and this one's AGP, which is a variety on PCI. Amazingly, this does still have its hard disk in place, so that's interesting. 40 ribbon cable, so it's a low spec IDE at this point in time. We've got floppy disk drive here, and then whatever that tape drive is there, and then the optical drive at the top. So standard layout, nothing really surprising. I'm surprised the hard disk's in place though. From this angle I can't see what it is, but I think we should turn it on before we take it apart, see what happens. I can see that the sticker on the video card is an STB, so that's a very common card manufactured at the time, and it's got a manufacturing date of the 50th week in 1997. Lovely gold heatsink, gold coloured heatsink I should say, on the CPU, obviously not gold. There's only one RAM stick in there, but at least there is some RAM in there. There is a coin cell CMOS battery, so hopefully that hasn't leaked everywhere. And a quick look at the caps. They look alright. I think I am just going to turn this on and see what happens. Now there was a keyboard that came in all this massive haul. It was a Compaq keyboard though, not a Dell, so I'm substituting my slightly older Dell mechanical keyboard and of course the ever-present Microsoft mouse. So we are plugged into the mains. Let's see if we can get some power through the monitor. Orange lights come on. It's not made a degaussing noise or anything though, so that's a little bit concerning. Let's turn the computer on. We have power, we have a case fan, and I can hear the hard drive spinning up. Monitors decide to turn on. Let's just remove this working sticker because it's going to get in the way. And we have a BIOS. Dell XPS D266 version A04. 640K system RAM, 31 megabytes of extended RAM, so it's got a 32 megabyte stick in. Okay, it's very unhappy about something. Not sure what that was about, maybe our keyboard's faulty. So what have we got actually in here? We've got keyboard detected, mouse detected. Fixed disk is an IBM 3.6 gig drive by the looks of it. We've got a Toshiba CD-ROM drive. It's not mentioning the tape drive, so maybe that's not IDE based. Let's get rid of this sticker a bit more. Okay, but we have a working computer, so that's really nice. F2 to run setup, oh no, delete to run setup. So we have a Pentium 2, 266 megahertz, 32 megs of RAM. So it thinks diskette drive B exists and it's a 1.44 megabyte. That may be the tape drive. Some of them did operate off the floppy disk controller in the early days before they moved to IDE. I haven't looked at the cabling, so let's just quickly do that. Yeah, now that's attached to the floppy disk controller. Okay, so it's recognised that IDE drives all fine. Plug and play OS, we don't know. We don't know if there's an operating system on there. And it defaults to removable devices followed by the hard drive, so that's all fine. Okay, let's see if we can boot off this hard disk. Oh, I missed what the video card was. It was an STB and it had 4 megs of RAM. That's all I saw. It's very unhappy about something. I think that's the keyboard. Let me change the keyboard. So replace the keyboard with a later model Dell, and it has booted lovely. And we have a desktop with a mountain lion on it. It looks like we've got Microsoft Office installed, we've got Excel, Access, Outlook, and presumably Word as well. And then there's two things here, TFF backup and TFF restore. So probably something to do with the tape drive. Anything else interesting in here? There's a document that says net access instructions. So that could be the internet or it could be the corporate network. Yeah, that's instructions on how to do it. It's dated 2001, so this machine was used until then. So it's probably from 1997 through to 2001. That's interesting. Is that because we've ran out of memory? I can hear the hard disk whirring away, so something is happening in the background. So Microsoft Windows, Revision B, Internet Explorer 5.5, registered to these people with 32 megs of RAM. All the device drivers are installed. And so let's have a little look at the display adapter. It's an STB Velocity 128. Very nice indeed. And the sound system, I was looking this up. It's a Yamaha OPL3. Not like a generic cheap Sound Blaster clone, it's an actual proper Yamaha chip. So this would make a really nice late gaming, DOS gaming PC. Cool. How big's the hard disk? Okay, it's in 3 different partitions, interestingly, and they're all 2 gigs each for obvious reasons. So it's a 6 gig hard drive by the looks of it. Does the CD tray open? No, it does not. Let's try it with the button. It does with the button. Okay, so the mechanism's working. I'm not sure if it can read drives. We're basically only going to do a very cursory look at this because we've got all those other machines to look at as well. But there we go, we have a working Dell Pentium 2. That is really, really nice. Looking forward to making a separate video all about this one. So let's turn this off. It's a bit grubby, these are clean. But we have a working Dell, that is really nice. So while we've got some Dell stuff out, we might as well look at the other Dells. So this is an Optiplex 466LE. So that's going to be a 486 running at a DX2 running at 66 megahertz, I would guess. It's got the same kind of stickers on, PC248 and name, so it obviously was on the same network as that other machine we just looked at, but this is obviously 2 generations before. Now there is a label on here that says hard disk controller failure, otherwise switches on. So again, this has been tested by the people selling and partial success, but hard drive had failed, or hard drive controller. So let's turn it on and see what we get. Okay, so the hard drive spun up and has now spun down, and we're stuck in the boot. So it says it's got a Cirrus Logic GD542X VGA, Venus BIOS A06, hard disk controller failure. So yeah, so it's got quite a lot of memory. It's got 8 megs of memory for a 486. That's quite a lot. So let's go to the setup and see what we can see. Very familiar early Dell setup. So interestingly, the case badge says it's a 486LE, whereas the BIOS says it's a 466LN, and I'll have to look up what the differences are. Dates reverted to 1995. hasn't detected the hard drive. So it's definitely a fault with the hard drive. It's got 8 megs of RAM. It's running at the correct speed, 66 megahertz. Everything else looks okay. So if the hard drive was working, it looks like this machine would actually boot. So let's just power cycle it, see if we can get that hard drive to spin up. So here it's spinning up. It's not seeking though, so it could be the head is stuck. Yeah, it's just spun down to protect itself. I think the heads are stuck on this particular drive. Okay, but we have a semi-working 486. Should we have a quick look inside? So yes, it was just very stiff. The front cover does come forward with the top of the case and then lift off. So what have we got inside? It's got space for a cooling fan, which isn't there. Case for potentially a speaker, which isn't there. Got your power and reset buttons, floppy drive cage with the correct caddy. I did a video ages ago about a 486SX from Dell, and we had lots of fun with the caddy. This one looks like it's got the original one in, so that's good. So here we have the hard disk. It's a Quantum Lightning, 365 megabytes, so third of a gigabyte. It's on IDE, so that's good. The far end of that cable isn't connected, but I presume that's for a secondary device, not for the motherboard. Spare Molex as well. 2 more spare Molexes here, so plenty of power options for whatever goes into this machine. And on this side we can see the motherboard, which takes up about 2/3 of the case. Big heatsink here on the CPU, presumably. Graphics card logic is over here. Can't see much else because of the 3Com Etherlink 3 card that's in one of these ISA slots. And these aren't ISA slots, which is interesting because the nomenclature on the front of the case, the LE versus the LN, that's to do with what kind of riser is in here. So you can get a Visa Local Bus riser in some of these machines. This one obviously just has the standard 16-bit ISA ones. Okay, all very interesting so far. What I'm looking for is a leaky CMOS battery. And I cannot see one. But obviously there's not a lot you can see with all this gubbins in place. I don't think I can see any sign of corrosion. So I'm happy for now that we don't need to take this apart immediately. Shame the hard drive is faulty, because I think otherwise that machine would have booted. And what secrets that hard drive holds. Windows 3.1 probably. Again, it doesn't look too dirty inside, it's pretty clean, so that's nice. Okay, let's put the lid back on this and then move on to the next machine. So in terms of Dells, that leaves this one, another one with a sticker on it that says works. Let's move that a little bit so we can see what's underneath. So it's a Dell Dimension L6667R. So it's a 667 megahertz Pentium 3. It's from the budget range. You can tell by the simplicity of the case. It's only got one 5¼ inch drive bay and this little 3.5 inch bay here. Standard floppy though. Intel Inside Pentium 3. Microsoft Windows 2000 Professional, Windows NT version 4, or Windows 98. Looking at the optical drive, it is a read-write, so I do wonder if that maybe was an upgrade at a later date. Side of the machine is pretty boring. It's got a PAT testing on here. Can't read the date. 2005 was when it was last PAT tested, so that's probably when it came out of use, or soon after. Back of the machine, very basic again. Standard ATX layout. You got I/O connectors here, slots for adding cards. So we have got onboard sound and joystick again. Interesting. We've got a Ethernet card and a modem. The side's pretty boring. Nothing very exciting to show. And again, there's no operating system certificate of authenticity, so I find that interesting. Probably came from a corporate environment where they had a bulk licensing agreement. To get this one open, there's a catch here on the top. You pull it and one of the sides falls off. I'm guessing it's this side, given the ATX motherboard layout. So there you go. Quite cramped in there. Got a date code of January 2000 on the power supply. It's a Foxconn power supply. Up here we've got the optical drive, we've got the spare 3.5-inch bay underneath that, and then a floppy drive in the floppy drive bay, so that makes sense. Again, there's a hard drive in here. IBM Death Star, depending on what you want to call it, from June 2000. Can't quite see the capacity. It's a 15 gig. So yeah, so this machine's from the middle of 2000, I would guess. We've got a coin cell battery, so no leaky, so that's good. Both the RAM slots are populated, so it probably was upgraded. And this will be a socket 370 system based on the fact that it's a Pentium 3, or a later Pentium 3. So again, it's got onboard sound. Let's just quickly look into that. So being a budget device, graphics are handled by the Intel 810E chipset, and the audio is a Creative Sound Blaster Audio PCI 64 built into the motherboard. It has got Intel networking, so it's got a decent network card, but it is a budget system, so everything's on board and cheap. So let's see if we can power this on, see if there's any operating system on that hard disk. Okay, so the other monitor that was in this package was this lovely 17-inch Dell. It's not a Trinitron screen, it's not completely flat in the vertical, but it's pretty flat. It's a model D1028LR. I'm not sure what the 10 stands for. 28 again is probably the dot pitch, and LR maybe low radiation, I'm not sure. I think it's based on a Philips monitor or a Philips tube. But yeah, it's nice and it suits this monitor this PC very well. Although the manufacture date on this is December 1997, so this might have actually gone with the Pentium 2 system. But anyway, I've paired it here with the Pentium 3 system, and we'll see if either of them are working. I do actually have an amber light on here already, so that's promising. Let's turn this on and see what happens. It's powering up. Amber light's turned to green. Tube's going to warm up. It's going to take a few seconds. A little flicker there of the image. Can we get into the BIOS? We can. Okay. So it's a 666 megahertz Pentium 3, 384 megs of RAM. So there must be one 128K and one 256K memory. 512 I think is the maximum for this system from what I've read. Okay, and we're in the setup. So that's told us everything we knew already. Cool service tag. BIOS A06, I'm not sure if that's the most up to date. You're not getting too much flicker on the screen, on the camera, so that's nice. Does it recognize the hard drive? It does. It's another IBM. Okay. It's not recognized the optical drive though. Second boot device, ARMD floppy disk drive. Not sure what that means, but it's going to go to the hard disk before the optical drive. Right. Let's see if it will boot off that hard disk. The monitor's not done the clicky thing again, so that's good. Maybe it's settling down. It's a bit grubby. Both of them a bit grubby. All of this stuff's a bit grubby, but nothing that can't be cleaned up. There's no cracks in the plastic. It's taking a long time to boot. Is that because it can't recognize the optical drive? So the optical drive seems to be dead. It's not, tray's not opening and closing. I'm assuming it's got power. I didn't double check that, but it would certainly cause a boot slowdown if it was faulty. Okay, floppy disk access. Is it going to boot? It's not really thinking about it, is it? Hard disk is making some like noises, maybe calibration noises, but it's not making a noise like it wants to boot off it. Now it sounds like it's accessing the hard disk. We have a Windows XP machine. Interesting. That would explain the memory upgrade. So on the other machine we had Windows 98, so we could just bypass the login screen. We're not going to be able to do that on this one, so we're not going to know what's on the hard disk, but we have a working hard disk. So much for these IBM Death Stars. It's working pretty well. Is it going to go straight to login, or is it going to ask us for a password? So I didn't see on the case any particular signs that this was in a corporate environment. It didn't have the same PC number and username on the outside of the case. So yes, we've gone straight through to the desktop. That is cool. Again, looks like we've got Office installed, AVG's installed. It's got a custom background, bubbles. Oh, it's still loading stuff. We do forget how slow mechanical hard disks were, don't we? Now we've all been used to SSDs for 10 years. So it's registered to a different person. It's Windows XP Service Pack 2. Let's look in Device Manager, make sure everything's installed correctly. Network card is not installed correctly, the drivers. Interesting. So it should be the Intel 810E graphics controller. Sound, and it's, Creative Audio PCI. The mouse has just deballed itself. Is there anything else to look at in here? It looks like we have Windows Media Player and Winamp. And is that iTunes? It is. So it looks like somebody was actually using this to this machine to stream their music from, or maybe sync with their iPad / iPod. Let's find out. So yeah, so iTunes is populated. There are some songs in here. So Dana's iPod selection, Ellie, Mike's iPod. So it looks like this was being used in a home as a kind of media server, would be my guess. It's a shame that optical drive's not working. Maybe we can look at that. Fine, okay, so we've got another working computer. Let's turn it off and see what's next in the pile. So while I am very partial to the Dell, I'm also quite happy to have a Compaq. This is a Compaq Desktop 386S. Actually, I already have one of these. It's currently got a short somewhere in it, and I need to diagnose that, but I've got another one. It's in very dirty, grubby condition. It's got a matching screen though, and a matching keyboard. Just look how dirty that is though. Probably don't want to touch that without washing my hands afterwards. Not only do I get the keyboard, the main unit and the screen, I get the full documentation as well. There's a Compaq Desktop 386 Personal Computer Operations Guide, and it seems to have lots of paperwork in it, and some floppy disks. That one's not labelled, but this is the proper Compaq Setup / Diagnostics version 703. Oh, we've got an IBM Personal Computer diagnostic disk as well. Cool. So that might be very useful if this machine doesn't start up. So very cool to have the documentation as well. This machine's the dual floppy disk. It's got the 1.2 megabyte and the 1.44 megabyte, and these are Compaq specific because they're very slimline. And also this eject button works the reverse way around you'd expect. So unlike the 3.5 inch, when the 3.5 inch disc goes in, the eject button pops out. On the 5.25 it does the opposite. When you put the disc in, this goes in as well. Bit of a weird arrangement. So there's no flip down handle. I presume that's a space saving design. Very cool though. All right, we have proper on-off switches here. We're all plugged in, ready to go. I haven't plugged a mouse in. I'm assuming that this era is not going to have a graphical user interface on. It's almost certainly going to be running DOS, maybe with Windows 286 or 386, but I doubt it. We don't even know if it's going to start up. We don't even know if it's got a hard disk in it, but let's turn it on and find out. So let's turn the monitor on first. Okay, we've got a decal snooze, so that's good. We've got a green light, no smoke. That's nice. Let's do the same with the computer. So these didn't have working stickers on them, but we have a display. Cool. It's counting up memory, 4 megabytes of memory. Decent numbers for a 386. Floppy disk access, floppy disk access. Hang on a minute. Whoa, what's this? Tandon RLL expansion ROM. Now I'll wait for it to stop beeping. Okay, Tandon RLL expansion ROM. Revision 1.5 version 1. Disk subsystem configuration error. Please run RLL setup utility. So this, we'll have to have a look on the back, but maybe this has a Tandon external disk drive for the data pack. So there were 2 external data packs in this pile of stuff, and I assumed they were for the Tandons themselves, but it looks like this has got an add-in card to control those data packs drives. That's perfect. That's really good. So even if the Tandons are beyond repair, we may still be accessing the data packs. That is very exciting. Okay, moving on. 162 and 163, CMOS battery's dead. Okay, hopefully it's not leaking everywhere. From memory, these are external off-the-board batteries, so we may get lucky, but it has certainly booted. Resume, press 1. Non-system disk or disk error, place and strike key when ready. So I can't hear a hard disk spinning up, and if it's got the external data packs, it may not actually have an internal hard disk, but it's trying to boot off the floppy here. So let's give it something to boot off. So this disk that was included in the documentation might be a boot or a diagnostic disk. It might be absolutely nothing. Let's write protect it. Surface looks good. Let's stick it in and see what happens. Nothing. Okay. It tried to read it, but nothing happened. Okay, let's try an actual working floppy disk. So this is a spin-right disk, so this doesn't actually have a full version of DOS on it, but it is bootable. Okay, that has worked. So that's a 720K disk. It looks like we have a working 386. We have a working monitor, we have a working keyboard, we have a working base unit with at least a working 3.5-inch floppy. We don't know about the 5.25. Do we dare risk that? Not for now. Let's not do that. Let's just run spin right to see if it can identify whether there's an onboard hard disk. Okay, so quick surface scan. Yeah, so it hasn't detected a hard disk. So it looks like this doesn't have a hard disk in it because it's designed to be used with those Tandon ones. That's very interesting. Let's have a look at the back of the machine. We also have some documentation for a 38620E, which is a slightly different model of this computer. That documentation has this envelope in it, which is the user programs version 701. Feels like it's on 5.25, and it doesn't look like it's ever been opened. So that is interesting to have. So here we are on the front. It's a Compaq Despo 386S, as we said. Interestingly, this label's really the cleanest part of the whole thing, I would say. On the switch is dirty, as they always are, because that's the bit that gets touched the most. Got the 2 compact size floppy disks and an empty bay below. These often had tape streamers in them. This one obviously has not. Is there anything on the side? Nothing on that side. Not a lot on here, but there are 2 stickers. One's a PAT safety test, which is dated 1996. And then there's a EPS task force number 110. I don't know what the EPS task force is. I've never heard of it. Project of some organisation. I think the monitor has a label on it saying it might be related to British Rail. So this may be a British Rail project. Probably the most interesting part of the whole computer. And immediately I can see a problem. There's a keyboard lock. There's a key lock. And it's in the locked position. It's not in the open position. So we won't be able to take this lid off. Unfortunately, that's a bit of a pain. At least we're not without breaking some stuff. I wonder if I've got a key for my other one and whether that would fit. Seems unlikely, but you never know. We might try that in a minute. We've got a Hayden Maintenance Limited, test date of September 1992. So this was supplied before 1992. Can't see any manufacturing date on it or anything. 256 colour VGA, it says. Universal power supply. Something is version 3, but I can't see what it is because it's just off the edge of the label. We've got thumb screws for taking off the case, which are currently loose. And then we've got the usual stuff down the bottom here. We've got the 2 PS2s, a parallel, a serial, and VGA. What is interesting in this is this connector here. So this looks like an external SCSI connector, potentially a little bit wider, maybe more than 25 pins. Presumably that's to do with the Tandon Data Pacs. So should we attach a data pack and find out? I think we should. Do we then dare turn one on? I don't know. I don't know actually. But let's try and connect to the data pack first and see what's going on. Okay, so here's a data pack. It comes with a cable. If that's proprietary, I'm glad it's come with a cable because we're not going to find any of those around anytime soon. It has got a bridge rail security writing on the top. And also some writing here in a little blue tacked on label. Unit number AP260. Please quote this number if calling the help desk. Okay, cool. It's not very heavy. It's not as heavy as I thought it was, but then I realised there's no power connector. So this must be powered directly through this cable. So it doesn't need internal power, and that's probably why it's quite light. The data pack drives themselves have all the drive mechanics in. So this is basically just a kind of a shell carrier with an inject and eject mechanism in it, I believe. And this is called a Tandon Data Pac. Oh. And this one is Bob's. This looks like someone's taken the front off this. There's holes in the carrier, so maybe this doesn't work. But we won't know till we plug it in. So we don't even know if this is what it's for, but I'm guessing so. So the connector goes that way around. Yep, it fits. So that's definitely what it's for. So this add-in card provides the external ability to add packs. Nice. I think we have to turn it on, don't we? Just to find out. Okay, this is possibly an experiment too far, but let's give it a try. So there's no data, so there's no power supply for that itself. It's powered from the computer. Let's turn on the monitor. There's no data pack in there. Let's turn on the computer. It certainly doesn't sound like there's a hard disk in the computer. Okay, so we've got an error message before. So it's disk subsystem configuration error. Please run RL setup utility. Okay, so it's still giving an error. There's no data pack in there, but I think it's just confused about the actual setup. So I think maybe we need to run a setup disk. Now, Compaqs of this era had the same issue. You had to run a setup disk if you wanted to change anything in the BIOS. You couldn't change it from within the computer itself. You actually had to run a program. It may be that Tandon have the same issue, maybe not issue, maybe Tandon have the same kind of theory with their drives as well. So we do have a green light though on the front of the unit. This is a data pack. It's one of the ones labelled spare. Looks in good condition. Should we put it in, see what happens? Okay, so it doesn't want to go in. I've got a feeling there is a keyboard shortcut for injecting and ejecting these. And I think it has something to do with the F2 key, maybe? Let's find out. So yeah, I haven't found any specific instructions on how to inject or eject this from the DOS prompt or even from the BIOS. If you run the utilities, there is a function key you can use to eject and inject, but I think from the BIOS level, I'm not sure there is. Let's just get to a bootable prompt. Yeah, we're gonna have to do some research on that, but the lights come on, so we have a working card by the looks of it, and all we need to do now is work out whether we can get some the RL utilities to make that a usable machine. That's a whole video in itself. You could do a whole video on data packs. But yeah, that's really interesting that you can get add-in cards and external drives for these data packs. Really cool. Okay, so here's probably the main event in some ways and not so much in others because of the damage that's been done. But anyway, this is a Tandon Pac 28612. So this is a 286 machine, 12 megahertz. And the unique feature about this is the data packs that go in the front here. So it's unlike any other PC in terms of appearance or in terms of construction. This one comes with a full set of documentation as well. Got all the manuals there. There's no floppy disks in here that I've noticed. but I think we should be able to download Tandon DOS from some archive.org page, I suspect. But yeah, it's nice to have the documentation with it. And then here's the machine itself, and it's got this slightly weird appearance because not only has it got these two holes in it, it's got this 5 1/4 drive just kind of stuck on top. And the other one I've got, because there were two of them, the other one actually has a 3 1/4, 3.5 inch drive on the top. So I've got kind of one of each, and I think they might be interchangeable looking at how they come apart. Starting wise, this blue is quite common on Tandon machines of this age. I think they did do a 386 and a 486 after this, but after that the company kind of went out of business, I think. So what's on this side? Nothing at all. This side is also similarly quite dull apart from a ownership sticker. So what about the back? Well, we've got this top bit on the top here. We've got a label. It's a model TM7780. I don't know how to break that down. No obvious kind of pattern to that number. Tandon M, so Tandon model number 7780, but it doesn't give us any clues as to the specifications. The model name does, so it's a 12 MHz 286, as I said when we were around the front. It's got a serial, a parallel, and a AT style keyboard. Power in and out, power supply, and then down here we've got a second serial port, another parallel port potentially, and then we've got a VGA card down here at the bottom, and I think it is VGA. Everyone has moved to the VGA standard by now. And then this top bit, you basically undo these two screws here, and this whole top section comes off. Then you take off this back panel and start working your way in that way, and you can get to the ISO slots very quickly, but everything else is kind of hidden inside the machine, and you have to start disassembling some RF shielding here. The power supply is quite big and chunky, and then you've got the two drive cages at the front, and then you've got the ISO slots down here, and the motherboards on the back. So not very standard construction. They must have cost more to build than the average PC of the time, particularly with these unique data packs. So I need to make a whole video about Tandon and the data packs. I need to take this apart first to see if there's got a leaking battery in this one. The other one was completely destroyed inside. I'm afraid I don't think it's ever going to live again. But this one doesn't seem to have the same marks on the back where the batteries leak, so we may get lucky. But anyway, I thought that was a really interesting group of computers. Hopefully you did too. So what an interesting group of computers. Very excited to get the Tandons. I'm really hoping one of them works. And we're not going to know in this video, unfortunately. But it does look like we've got a working Compaq 386. We've got a 486 Dell, which is probably working without the hard drive being fixed. We've got a Pentium 2 Dell, which is really nice as well, and then a slightly more boring Pentium 3 Dell. A couple of really nice Dell screens though, and that Compaq screen's working as well, which is really, really nice. So I did pay money for these, and it was below market rate, but they weren't free, they weren't cheap. I did have to go and drive all the way to London to go and get them, so I think I got some reasonable bargains in that group of computers. Those data packs, I really hope some one or more of those is working. I really hope those external drives are working and we can get the Compaq machine up and running. I think there's more chance of that working than the Tandons, unfortunately. But we'll be making another video about pretty much all of the machines in this video. Therefore, if you have a favourite, if there's one in particular you want me to make a video about first, please let me know in the comments below. I'm very happy to do it in whatever order people think is most appropriate. If you don't leave comments, I'm going to do the Tandons, just for the obvious reason. Right, I better go and try and get the battery out of this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you're enjoying the channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you are, and we'll see you in the next one.